Hallucinations. Hallucinations are easily the most well-known type of error that large language models make, and also the most misunderstood. To understand hallucinations, you have to remember what LLMs do and what they know. What they do is predict the next word. What they encode, or what they know, looks a lot like knowledge of structure. That is, the shape of the documents we tend to use. They encode that simply because they have seen the same language patterns over and over again. They've seen so many bios, press releases, quarterly reports, and reviews that they are encoded as patterns of language that can be used to predict the next words. They learn to predict the elements associated with the documents that they've seen. Most of the time, this means predicting words and punctuation. John Smith was born on is going to be followed by some date. Fred is 6 feet, ends with tall. These very specific predictions give them the ability to finish ideas with the words that, at the very least, sound right. But sometimes these predictions come from more complex patterns. Let's say we're writing an academic paper and we want a citation. Now, I know what a citation looks like, and oddly enough, so do most language models. If you ask, you can get a model to give you a description of a citation. Citations of authors, a title, publication date, and sources. Now, these descriptions, ironically, are not used to generate text, but that's for another video. But there is an encoding at the word level of what a citation looks like. They start with authors, then dates, titles, etc. Once the first element is triggered, the others just fall into place. Once you have Smith, J, we need a date, so 2019, and then a title, The Art of Academic Writing, location, New York, and publisher, Academic Press. Great. They can generate these until the cows come home. Of course, only one of these is real, and that is the first one. The other two are just made up. But I don't care, because I was just looking for examples. I didn't ask for anything specific. So it just responds to what I asked for and then keeps on filling things up. If I ask for more specific citations, I will get much more precise, specific citations. Asking for a citation for a 1987 paper on case-based reasoning, I get a paper in the proceedings of the AAAI conference. That's fantastic, clear, crisp, and on point. If I ask for a similar citation that's more recent, what I get is a 2010 case-based reasoning paper in IEEE Transactions on Knowledge and Data Engineering. Of course, it's completely made up. And quite frankly, the one before wasn't real either. They're not real papers, but they're quite plausible possibilities. These citations come from a system encoding knowledge of what a citation might look like and then filling in the specifics with whatever context it has. Names, topics, publications, years can all participate in defining that context. Given a particular context, predictions can be strong enough to get the process started, and once started, the words that have been generated themselves help to provide even stronger predictions and continue with the context. It's not just citations that are the issue, they're just the most obvious. This goes beyond citations in two different ways. The first is mistakes that models make when they try to be more specific than the text they've been trained on. For example, if I ask ChatGPT 3.5 to give me a description of Northwestern's master's program in artificial intelligence, it will give me a decent, reasonable, albeit short description. If I follow up and ask about the program's duration, I get back an interesting response. I'm told the program takes either 1 or 2 years, depending upon whether or not you are taking the program full-time or part-time. Great, except for two things. First, there is no part-time version of the program. Second, the program lasts 15 months, period. There ain't no part-time option and certainly no 1 or 2 year option. What's interesting here is not just that it got it wrong, but the way in which it did so. Many master's programs in CS have full or part-time options, so this is a likely answer. Likewise, 1 and 2 year versions are far more common than 15-month programs. Again, more likely. When LLMs hallucinate, they don't hallucinate into the world of fantasy. They hallucinate toward the norm. When they have not seen a fact often enough, they just guess, and you get the most likely but perhaps false answer. We also get mistakes that happen when systems get on a roll. By which I mean they get going and then feed themselves more grist for the predictions. If they start describing something, that they have not seen enough of to have encoded the facts, but they have encodings of the structure, they will use what they have generated at the beginning to shape the remainder. They get started and keep going with stronger and stronger predictions based upon what they have written so far. On a regular basis, I ask the different models for my dad's bio. My dad was a Middle Eastern archaeologist, and I always enjoy this process. Asking for a bio of the archaeologist Philip C. Hammond, I get. Philip C. Hammond was always fascinated with the past, even from a young age. Born in 1978 in Cambridge, Massachusetts, his childhood was spent exploring the local woods and fields, imagining the stories behind every rock and artifact he found. His early interest in archaeology only deepened as he grew older, leading him to pursue a degree in anthropology at Harvard University. During his undergraduate years, Hammond participated in several archaeological digs, honing his skills in fieldwork and excavation techniques. After Harvard, he goes on to the University of Chicago for his master's and PhD, and then off to a successful career traveling to Greece, Italy, Egypt, and Turkey. Fantastic. It reads well. Every time I read one of the bios generated by the language models, I am stunned by my dad's career. But if you pause for a moment, it might occur to you that him being born in 1978 is somewhat suspicious. Wasn't born in Cambridge, went to Yale, not Harvard, didn't work sites in Greece, Italy, Egypt, or Turkey. It reads great and somewhat inspirational, just not a single word of truth. But once it started with Philip C. Hammond was always fascinated, it was on a roll. What's he fascinated with? He's an archaeologist. It must be the past. And we need to have him born at some time and place because it's a bio. 1978 is semi-random, but Cambridge sounds right for an archaeologist, as does Harvard. The system is simply making predictions based upon the words it's already seen, including the words it's already written. And once it started, cannot escape. It is a marvelous skill. I have a deep and abiding love of the world of improvisational comedy. And these things are the best improvisers I've ever seen. In all three of these cases, the system has enough context to predict and then generate and then continue to the words that it's generated to continue to predict. It's just that the prediction is the most likely words, not necessarily the truth. They have no memories, so they tend to hallucinate specifics unless they are given the specifics. If they've seen the specific facts over and over again, they can predict based upon the learned relationships. But if they've only seen the specifics a few times, they won't have any encoding of them to use. They're like skilled copywriters who are being asked to generate content, but without the requisite knowledge. It's as though you hired a copywriter, put them in a room, and occasionally ask them to write something for you. You pop your head in and ask for a press release, product description, or blog posting, but you never give them the details of what you want. But they're good. They know what a press release looks like, and a product description, and a blog posting. And so they just make it up for you. They've got the structural knowledge, but not the knowledge of the specifics. The bug isn't that they know how to write. The bug is that you aren't telling them enough about what you want. You may have noticed a drive to get rid of hallucinations. We don't want our systems to be saying things that sound good but aren't true. But that actually doesn't mean removing hallucinations. These systems will always hallucinate. It's what they do for a living. They're just guessing the next word. They are in a constant state of hallucination. It's just that sometimes the hallucination is right and sometimes wrong. It's the lack of access to truth, knowledge of the world, that makes the hallucinations go south on us. They're likely, they're just wrong. They sound good, they're just wrong. It's the lack of knowledge of the world that makes hallucinations happen. But hallucination is a feature, not a bug. The bug is that these systems lack access to the knowledge that can be used to fill in the factual gaps in what the LLMs are trying to produce. The bug is lack of information, and the fix is figuring out how to fill that gap with the information that we want our LLMs to communicate. We want the structure that comes from the encoding. We just need to figure out how to give LLMs facts to fill them in. That's it. And please stay safe.